You've seen our list for the best games. Now here's the 6 titles we found to be the biggest disappointments of 2015. These games aren't necessarily bad, we were just expecting so much more from them. Mad Max. Given the fact that Beyond Thunderdome was a miserable extended music video for Tina Turner, we had reason to suspect that Fury Road would be a bit of a flop. Instead, it shattered our expectations and earned a Best Picture nod at the Oscars. With the developer behind Just Cause 2 working on a video game adaptation of George Miller's post-apocalyptic film series, we expected another sleeper hit, but what we got almost put us to sleep. Mad Max is by no stretch of the imagination a terrible game. It's just painfully derivative given the fact that the default template for modern games is an open world format that relies on collectibles and shallow repetitive quests to pad the gameplay. Avalanche preferred the art of crawling out of your car and hijacking other vehicles in Just Cause 2, and we hope that those gameplay concepts would have evolved to include epic chase and hijack sequences involving the war rigs that we saw on Fury Road. Sadly, Mad Max the video game never delivered anything remotely ambitious, instead opting for generic, inoffensive gameplay that seemed to appeal to the same group of people who played the overhyped Shadow of Mordor the previous year. Shiny and chrome, it is not. Telltale's Game of Thrones.
It would be a shame to see it fall into the hands of another house. I imagine you'd do almost anything to prevent that from happening, wouldn't you?
Telltale seemed to fix a lot of the complaints from The Walking Dead with The Wolf Among Us and Tales from the Borderlands. Not only did these games remove a lot of the boring hub areas, but your choices seemed to carry more weight as well. Being fans of the TV series, we had high hopes for Game of Thrones, but it unfortunately reverted back on all these changes and is about as linear as you can get. None of your choices matter in the slightest, and it feels more like you're an observer rather than a participant. Every dialogue choice brings you to the same conclusion, and if a character dies, another one immediately fills the same role, having no grander effect on the overall storyline.
You are afraid.
Of course. A man who has really faced a dragon before may have reason to be afraid.
Batman Arkham Knight.
Gotham, this is your only warning.
The Arkham series has solid mechanics from the start. They were slowly perfected with each and every entry, and as a final product, Arkham Knight delivers. Sadly, for all that Arkham Knight does right, it's overshadowed by the many peak moments of its predecessors. The Batmobile was a nice addition to the gameplay, but too much rested on its shoulders, taking away a lot of the characteristics that made up Batman. The boss fights were mostly letdowns, and 90% of the side missions didn't build up to anything worthwhile. Let's not forget the PC port, which left many incapable of playing the game for several months. Arkham Knight was a great game, but none of it was transcendent. It doesn't take the world's greatest detective to realize that this game wasn't all it was hyped out to be.
Pig happy, pig glad. Pig gets to play with flesh, make it look pretty after death.
Star Wars Battlefront. We're big Star Wars fans, and at Analog Reviews we had really big hopes for Battlefront, as it was one of our most anticipated titles last year. Unfortunately, EA and DICE failed to live up to the expectations by not offering nearly enough content at launch. While we really enjoyed some of the game types such as heroes versus villains, we quickly grew bored with the lack of content. Battlefront is by no means a bad game though, and we're hoping that it really improves throughout 2016 when more content is released. It's just a shame that EA is in the habit now of releasing unfinished games along with full-price $60 season passes.
The things I do for that princess.
Halo 5.
Weapons free. Contact!
We were hoping 343's second foray into the Halo universe would be an improvement. Unfortunately, it was anything but. Halo 5 was effectively a step down from every title in the franchise that preceded it. From a half-baked storyline with one repetitive combat sequence after another, to its bland, boring environments, which is a shame as Halo has always featured some of the greatest visuals and skyboxes ever played on the Xbox. The multiplayer had far less game types than ever before, removing one flag CTF, rocket races, among others, not to mention that there was no rhyme or reason behind the ranking system. Worst of all was the inclusion of the pay-to-win Warzone game type, which was not only boring, but players could essentially buy all of the best vehicles via microtransactions.
Every other Spartan, every soldier, when they hear about this, they're gonna hate us. You know that, right?
Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. We couldn't be more confused at the high praise this game has received by many major video game review outlets. While Metal Gear Solid and Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater rank among some of our favorite games of all time, MGS5 forgoes the strong narrative present in the aforementioned titles. Its gameplay has been improved, but that's really the only thing it has going for it. Its environments are bland, barren, and devoid of anything interesting. Its few cutscenes are full of motion sickness inducing shaky cam, and its characters are far less intriguing than the previous titles. It's common knowledge at this point that series creator Hideo Kojima had a falling out with Konami, but it's not fair to make the gamers suffer by forcing us to sit through the credits every 10 minutes in which Hideo Kojima's name is displayed half a dozen times. The game also had way too many scripted moments as well as repetitive missions and boss fights.
Great to see you safe, boss. Snake, you stink.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe as we'll continue to cover games throughout 2016.